What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy and personal academic mentor, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, coming at you to be able to answer an important one today, which is, on average, how long does the peer review process last? Now, when you hear peer review, you probably assume that we're talking about taking a manuscript, submitting it to your target journal, and then waiting for a number of your peers to be able to take a look at a blinded version of your manuscript, and then create comments, and then have it sent back to you via the editor or associate editor of an impact factored, I hope, peer-reviewed journal. That said, keep in mind that this is actually two separate processes. Now, the first process is when you take the manuscript and you submit it. Either the editor-in-chief or the associate editor or editors of the journal are going to take a look and make sure that the manuscript is in good enough shape, right? The quality of the writing is good enough, there's not loads of grammatical or spelling errors and so forth, and that there's a good fit between your content or your study and that which is usually published by the journal. If that fit isn't there, they're going to give you something called a desk rejection, meaning that the piece isn't going to go to all of those other colleagues in a blinded form. All right, so that's a desk rejection, but I would argue that that's part of peer review. And then the second part of peer review is what we just talked about. All of those colleagues taking a look at that blinded version and giving you feedback. Now, a lot of people worry. They say, gosh, it took me so long to do this research and then so long to be able to write the manuscript up. How long is the peer review process going to take? Now, I would love to give you the answer myself, but I'm an evidence-based guy, and I always try to bring you guys the evidence-based literature. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. So let's take a look at what I found here, right, in this journal article published in 2017 by Huisman and Smits. The name of the article is Duration and Quality of the Peer Review Process, the Author's Perspective. Now, to be honest with you, when I first read that, I didn't think it was going to be a study or have any kind of analysis. I honestly just kind of thought it was going to be an editorial or a letter to the editor or kind of just some generic commentary, but I was really pleased to see just how wrong I was. So let's go ahead, we're going to read the abstract, then I'm going to take you through a few really cool things in this article that maybe you didn't notice at first. But as you can see, I've got a free copy of it. So essentially, if you just go back here to the title and you put that into Google in quotes, all right, and you go to the landing page for the article, you can download a free copy of this as well. You don't have to go through a university portal if you don't currently have access to these types of articles. So let's get reading. To gain insight into the duration and quality of the scientific peer review process, we analyzed data from 3,500 review experiences submitted by authors to the scirev.sc website. Aspects studied are duration of the first review round, because keep in mind, sometimes you end up submitting an article and they say, you know what? We need you to do a revise and resubmit or submit with major revisions, such that sometimes the associate editor who's handling your piece may actually send it out for either re-reviews by the same peer reviewer or peer reviewers, or to entirely new peer reviewers, and that would represent a second round. Now, me personally, for kind of higher impact journals like British Medical Journal that I published in, it's taken up to 4 rounds. Okay, so here the time until the end of the first review round. Okay, second is total review duration, so all the rounds. Next is immediate rejection time. That's that desk rejection I was talking about. Okay, the number, quality, and difficulty of referee reports. A referee is just a peer reviewer. Okay, the time it takes authors to revise and resubmit their manuscript, and overall quality of the experience. We find clear differences in these aspects between scientific fields, with medicine, public health, and natural sciences showing the shortest durations, and mathematics and computer sciences, social sciences, like psychology, for example, economics and business and humanities, the longest. I can tell you guys from experience via Publication Academy, and you guys can go check it out if you want to learn how to be able to publish faster and more successfully in academic journals. I have worked with so many people in computer science and the humanities, and oh my gosh, it can take flipping forever. So 1/3 of journals take more than 2 weeks for an immediate desk rejection, so not formal peer review, right? And that's honestly quite a long time sometimes, right? Usually when I was editor-in-chief of my journal, I would try to get back to everybody within 2 weeks. Okay, and 1/6 of the journals take more than 4 weeks. That's brutal, guys, right? That's like 15% of journals essentially here, taking more than a month, before they just desk reject it. And this is why it's so important to be able to have a good process of pre-submission inquiries. Now, if you don't know what those are, let me know in the comments below. I can make you a video on that, and we go into it comprehensively. I give you a template for a pre-submission inquiry in Publication Academy. So again, check that out. So this suggests that besides the time reviewers take, inefficient editorial processes also play an important role. Yep. As might be expected, shorter peer review processes and those of accepted papers are rated more positively by authors. Now, I thought this was cool. More surprising is that peer review processes in the fields linked to long processes are rated highest, right? And this is in terms of their perceived quality, right? And in the fields linked to short processes, the lowest. Hence, authors' satisfaction is apparently influenced by their expectations regarding what is common in their field. In other words, if you're in medicine, you expect it to be short and a little bit dirty in terms of the peer review, versus if you're in, let's say, the humanities, it's going to take longer, but the quality and the depth of the reviewer comments is going to be a lot deeper, okay? Qualitative information provided by the authors indicates that editors can enhance author satisfaction by taking an independent position vis-a-vis reviewers and by communicating well with authors. Now you may be saying, okay, Dr. Singh, what do they mean an independent position when it comes to reviewers? Well, oftentimes what happens is that, these are human beings, editors and associate editors. So when they're selecting peer reviewers, oftentimes they pick people that they know, like, and trust instead of necessarily the best people who are going to do the best job in terms of doing a peer review. I've run into that myself. We can talk about that some other time, but really conducting a good peer review and the ethical obligations of editors and associate editors are critical topics, again, that we cover in Publication Academy. So let's go ahead. We're going to scroll down a little bit here to a cool table. I'll give you the page number in case you get this piece yourself. It's on page 640, right? So here we go. This is time until first response, right? So what you're seeing here, right, is the average. You can go ahead and follow my cursor, right? The average until first response time in weeks, okay? And this is surprising, right? This is first response time, right? Because I always tell people 2 to 3 months, and sure enough, what we're finding here is right about 3 months, right? And within 1 month, a lot of people are like, oh, peer review should only take 1 month, right? But only 19% across every field, right, is going to get, of manuscripts, is going to actually get a response during that time. But over 2/3 of people are going to hear back within 3 months, and 90%, so virtually all, are going to get a first response within 6 months. Now, I do recommend, because all of you are going to be in different fields, right? Like, let's say you're in psychology, right? You may say, oh my goodness, right? Here, right, all of the numbers are lower in terms of the first month and the third month numbers compared to kind of across different fields. I do recommend that you kind of pause right now and just take a look, and you can find your field and find that data, right? And we have, for the total review duration, and then if you're interested in more tables than this, just take a look at the article, but for the sake of the length of the video, so total review duration of accepted papers, right? Across fields, it's 17 weeks, right? So 17 weeks is really quite a bit of time, right? Here, this is like essentially more than a quarter of the year here is what we're talking about. So really, this is something that's going to take, quite a bit of time to be able to just get through that peer review process, right? But what you can see is that the total duration, right, in terms of the number of papers that where you're fully done, you've got the peer reviewer comments back, you're good to go, and all the rounds are done, is 53%, right? So over half of journal articles that are submitted, within 3 months, you're going to know one way or the other. Okay, this has nothing to do with whether the piece was accepted, rejected, or anything in between. Keep that in mind. Okay, so on average, that's what we're dealing with here. And as you can see, there's a lot of heterogeneity, in other words, variability between fields. And obviously, this is also going to depend on a number of other things: the type of journal article that you've submitted. What's going on in a journal in a given time. For example, if there's a special issue that's going on, okay, usually peer review ends up moving more quickly for special issues. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, but overall, it's helpful, if nothing else, to be able to have this aggregate data, this so-called nomothetic data because it's like a big arrow that's pointing us in a specific direction. So if you're planning on submitting a piece, I want you to take into consideration that it can take a while depending on the field that you're in, but 3 months is kind of the big number that I want you to take into consideration for a first review, okay, so a first round to be able to come back. And it may take another several months after that, right? But as you can see here, over 80% of journals within 6 months are going to have that definitive final conclusion, all the rounds done. So about half a year. And this is why you don't just want to be working on one article and submitting one manuscript at a time. You want it to actually, you want to have kind of a workflow of a lot of different things in the pipeline, just because you never know when these things are going to come back. So thank you guys so much for watching. Share this video with your friends, colleagues, and students, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.